Hello and welcome. This is going to be one of the first videos in the many videos that I'm going to be giving on in-game lessons. I will delve into other topics as well. I will take polls and see what people are interested in learning. So with that said, what do I have set up here? First of all, I have Forward Chess. Forward Chess, let me tell you a little bit about that. It's a ebook system that has an electronic board integrated with the actual ebook. It's the actual ebook itself. No shortcut around it. No funny setup. It's the actual ebook, but just with a chessboard involved, where you can go through all variations, all lines, and even enter your own moves without having to use a chessboard. It gets lost in variations. But the beauty of it is what I'm showing you here today is that you can use Forward Chess with an actual physical board as well, so you can have the best of both worlds. So the position at hand on the board, what is this? This is a very interesting king and pawn endgame that I'm pulling from Dvoretsky's endgame manual, as you can see here on the screen. So let me show you how this works. You just click your book of choice. And I'm already in the chapter that I'm going to use, so I'm going to show you quickly. If you click this here, you can pick whatever you wanted, whatever chapter you want, to go through that part of the book. As you see, it's a lot of content in this book. This is, again, by far one of the best, just generally speaking, one of the best chess books of all time. So what's good about this, for example, if you see a board position like this diagram of this exercise, the very first exercise here, if we click that board, it'll now put that position on the board. So first what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back up here to the top. I'm gonna just pick a random position here like this. I just want to show you if you haven't seen this. And if you just click the arrow keys, so you can play through these variations or go to any variation you want just simply by clicking the move. Pretty amazing. All right, so that said, let's go back down to the actual exercise at hand. So this is the exercise at hand, just as simple. I clicked the diagram and went back to that exercise. But I want to study on the physical board today. And in case if I want to go back to the digital version, I can do that as well. So enough of that. Let's get down to business here. So the position we have at hand here, white, first of all, let's look at some obvious things. What are the most obvious things? White's king is much more further advanced than black's king. Now hold that thought for a minute. Now what I want to do first of all is just get the most obvious move out of the way. And that move would be king to e5. Now if you want king to e5, most people would say, oh yeah, you want to grab the opposition. You want, because once you grab the opposition, you got a white the king, you got a better position, you're likely to win. And while this is it's seemingly in an easy position, it's a very hard position to calculate out. And intuitively, most people would play this position this way. And this would be the wrong move here, actually. This right here would just lead to a draw. So let me show you why. So now when black goes d7, okay, then you have king to f6. Then you're going to have black king to c6. You're going to have h4, king b5, h5, king takes, king to g7, pawn b5, king takes, black pushes a pawn, king g7, black pushes a pawn, white pushes, black pushes, white pushes, black pushes in to get a queen, and now white pushes in to get a queen. Now look at this. This is a draw, but let's keep this position here in mind, and let's just think of it like this. If it was white's move, this game would be a win for white. But being that black queened first, now it's black's move. And this here is a draw because he can just begin checking the king. Because, for example, if it was white's move, you could just come here, check, king anywhere, check, queen takes queen, and the game is over just like that. So now let's just go back to the original position here. So we can take a look and see exactly what we got here. And now let's go back and go to the next obvious move. And before we go any further, okay, so what the next obvious move would be, let's just say if king wants to G5. and king went to f7, king to h6, king to g8, right? Now, you might look at this position and say, well, black can protect the pawn, white can't take it. And that is absolutely correct. But there's a hidden feature of this position that makes white win this game. So with that said, I want to go back to the original position one more time, because the reason why I'm doing this, I want to kind of get this kind of ingrained this pattern in you. And I think for me, not only learning techniques, but learning the pattern is the thing. So now let's talk about the features of the position. We went over the obvious two first moves, right? We've discovered that one of them leads to a draw. All right, so first of all, we talked about white's king being further advanced than the black king. And why is that significant? What's significant for more than one reason. The first reason people may think it's significant because, well, his king is more active, and that is true. But the second reason that it's most active, this is where you begin to figure out ways to do things and, to make different moves, is that white has waiting moves, which, say, for example, h4, h5, if he need them. Because again, if he push his pawn h4, h5, he's really under no threat of losing his pawn to the black king. No, the black king cannot threaten that pawn. However, if, for example, let's just make an example. If white, say, went h6 or h5, immediately black can go king to g6. So we know that that's, not really a good situation. So basically, black doesn't really have any real bona fide waiting moves in this position. But white has waiting moves at his disposal. Now, with that said, we all know the opposition is important in an endgame with king versus king. So there's this concept not only called the opposition, but what's called the distant opposition. So that's kind of the main feature of this position that you want to achieve with the waiting move. So those two things in combination, the distant opposition and the waiting move, is what's going to win this game. So now let's take a look and see how this works. All right, so first move, obviously you're going to go king to g5, king f7. Let's go back to the position at hand. King h6, king to g8. Now white has a waiting move with h4. You'd be like, well, wait a minute, what does this do? Well, black only has one real move here, and that is to go king to h8 to save the pawn, because any other move, for example, would automatically lose the pawn on h7 and thus lose the game, right? So with that said, what else does, at this point in the game, what does white do? So your goal now is to pause the video and figure out what is the best move for white to ensure he gets the proper opposition in this position. I'll just give it a few seconds in case people want to think about before they pause it. So now I'm going to say, all right, here's the move. The move is our king to h5. This is the move to get the distant opposition, because black has to come back on the G file. And when he comes back on the G file, you can get the position of distant opposition or regular opposition, meaning that opposition is when you have basically an odd number of squares between your king and the opposing enemy's king. So for example, like king went to g7, you just step over to king to g5, and now you have the appropriate opposition that you want. Now, if king, say for example, was to go g8, now you go king to g4, and you have this odd number of squares in between both kings. This is the distant opposition here. Thus, white has the appropriate opposition that he needs to win this game. And how would white go about winning this game? So the only real reasonable try here, because for example, if black was to go here, then you just go this way here and win this pawn here and win the game. So he has to go king to f8, right? And now what you do, now think about it, you don't want to keep the opposition for too long. I mean, you can't just maintain this distant opposition, because you got to think, you know, if you were, let's just say, you know, go to say king to, well, you can go king to, I guess king to f5 is not really the move here, because this would kind of lead to, you know, sort of a draw, but king to f4 is the move, because again, you want to maintain that distant opposition. I think I said that a little wrong earlier, but anyway, just get the point. You want to maintain the appropriate opposition, meaning that you want an odd number of squares between the two kings, all right? Because if black steps forward, you step forward, you always, and don't forget one square, that's an odd number of squares. So now king to e8, and what happens? Now watch this. King to g5. Now you think, why would you do all that just to go back? But what's happening is that you are actually threatening this white pawn now, because what happens is that you want to actually make the situation so you can get black king in a situation where once the opposition is yours, that you can kind of shoulder him off. So that way you can go and grab the pawn you want and allow him to have a pawn, but you're going to queen first. Because don't forget that position where, remember what we said when both sides queen, if it was white's move, the game would be over. That's what that type of position is what you want to achieve. All right. So now king to g5. All right. So now after king to g5, king to f7. But look, we still want opposition. King to f5. King to e7, king to e5. And now, once our king goes to d7, now watch this, king to d7, here it is. King to f6. And this is where you shoulder the king out, because again, now think about this. If you think about this position that we have here at hand, now watch this, this position here. Remember the original position where we was here and then we was here? Think about it. Compare these two positions. It's basically a better version of this position here, because now you are closer to this pawn, and you're close to this pawn, and that means you're going to queen first, is what that means. So, all right, now we go king to c6. King to c6, king to c6. Now h5, and it's all what we just already seen a while ago. King to g7, king takes, king takes. It's just everything here. Now you don't even have to calculate here. White queens first, black queens, and well, it's white's move, and we have the same position we had earlier, except for it's white's move. Now, king to a8, king anywhere, king to b8, king anywhere, queen takes queen, and the game is over just like that. So that is how you kind of evaluate these kind of end games. So let's go back to the original position one more time. That position would be, let's see here, that position, if we would go back to the original position one more time. Let's open this up here. I just want to keep the screen active here. And let's see here. Let's go back to the original position one more time. So the way you should think about king and pawn end games is, and maybe not every king and pawn end game is a win, but if you have the most active king, your king is further up the board. What that signifies is that your waiting moves mean more. Maybe again, that's a general rule, not 100% of the time, but most of the time, if your king is further advanced and you're closer to your pawn that you have the waiting move with, you can use that waiting move to your advantage at some point, because that pawn is never under a threat to be captured by the enemy king, versus in this case, black doesn't really have any waiting moves. So you just want to keep the pressure somehow, even because again, this is really, even just with these 4 pawns and these 2 kings, this is really hard to calculate out, but you might intuitively can play a position like this correctly just by saying, okay, if I can get my king in a position, use my waiting move, and sort of grab the opposition, don't forget odd number of squares between the kings, and get to a position where I can shoulder the enemy king, I might can queen first. Therefore, I might can win the game. So that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson here, this ebook here, Forward Chess. I'll just quickly show the solution here, and I'll show you how this works. If we just, you know, for example, let's just click the main line G5. And if you want to just go through the main line, you can just see how the main line goes here. And you can see how easy it is. And you'd be like, oh, wait a minute, but what happens on move 4 if he goes H5? You know, you can go back to that variation, just that simple. Scroll through your moves, and there you have it. You can start right back over. Just click the first diagram. You just go back to the original position. Or if you want to see the draw, you can go king to E5. You can just go through that just like that, and you can see how that leads to a draw. So that's why I love Forward Chess so much. There's a link in the pinned comment if you guys want to help out, and there's a code that will get you 10% off any chess book in Forward Chess library. With that said, I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. It was really rewarding making this video, because I hope one day I can give more and more lessons, because I hope one day I actually become a chess teacher somewhere. Right now I work full time and I can't do that, but this is helping me sort of achieve that goal. With that said, you guys take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.